Hey everybody, Brian the Rain Man Lucas, host of RainMan'S Take podcast, observations on the world we live in, coming to you today with another short raindrop. I want to give you my take on just how polarized things have gotten in America today. And I think what I'd like to do and one of the main reasons why I did start RainMan'S Take podcast is I want to get people to start to realize, at the very least, that if you're just listening to one side of the story, you're not getting the whole story. Generally speaking, you're most of the time misinformed as to what's going on. I'm a libertarian by nature. However, just my outlook on life, I would probably say I lean a little bit more conservative. A lot of people would tell you that. However, I try to read and I try to watch everything so that I can make an informed decision. And case in point is everything that's going on right now with the coronavirus. So, the coronavirus, what's my take on it? Depending on what your bent is, if you listen to CNN or if you listen to Fox, both sides are so far into their corners right now that really the truth has got to be somewhere in the middle. Case in point, to just show you just how crazy it's become on the television media. I'll use a perfect example of Chris Cuomo, host of Cuomo. What is it? It's Cuomo Prime Time, his primetime CNN show. Now, I don't know Chris at all. I've never met him. I've never really watched his program. I do know that he is way on the left in terms of his political views and how he thinks things are going with Trump. Again, that is not my point for today's raindrop. My point is about a month and a half ago, Chris Cuomo got tested positive for coronavirus and actually got it, and spent about 3 weeks really sucking it up at home, going through the illness until he got better. And I actually did watch a couple of the episodes while he was at home quarantined, and to be perfectly honest with you, he seemed like he'd make sense. It was a lot less hyperbole. It was a lot less political. Obviously, he wasn't feeling great, and a lot of it was just kind of his personal journey going through that. And I thought that was fascinating. And so, when he was finally fully recovered from coronavirus, he basically went on to a radio show, I believe somewhere around April 13th or 14th. And whether it was he had an epiphany because he was sick and he was scared and he really had a chance to reevaluate his life and what he was doing, but whatever it was that caused this, on a Sirius XM radio show, and I made notes of this about a month ago when it first came out. And it's funny because I actually ripped the article in half because I thought I was going to throw it out, that I wouldn't need it. Basically, after that interview, I'll just give you one of his quotes, and then I'll kind of comment on it. He said, "I don't want to spend my time doing things that I don't think are valuable enough to me personally." Cuomo said, adding, "I don't value indulging the rationality and the hyper-partisanship," unquote, of what's going on and where we are in the world today. And one of the notes I wrote on this particular page was, actually I'll read you a couple of the notes here. One, I'm actually impressed with Chris Cuomo if that is in fact actually true. I've liked his feeds from his house. I was commenting on his honesty during the illness and his recovery, and I even said I even liked some of Governor Cuomo, his brother, Governor Cuomo's pressers during his handling of how New York State was dealing with the coronavirus. I disagree with most of his policies, and my name for Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, is he's the Ayn Rand Atlas Shrugged governor in my book. He had that famous quote a couple years ago where he said, "Hey, I tried to tax the rich and they all left on me." So anyway, as an aside, Ayn Rand Atlas Shrugged, it's a must read. So basically, after that night and after I heard that Cuomo had said that, I said to myself, you know what? maybe this is potentially the start of a highly popular show host that is basically starting to think like he wants to move away from the hardcore left position that is CNN to maybe something more in the middle. And my take is we need that to happen, because right now, especially in the media, especially in the politics, what we're being fed is either you're on the right and everything that the left says is wrong, you're on the left and everything the right says is wrong. Everybody's lying. So if everybody's lying, who's right? My personal take is, again, read everything, learn as much as you can about an issue. Most likely it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So anyway, that's kind of how I felt about Chris Cuomo as he went through his coronavirus sickness. And so at first I was like, give him the benefit of the doubt. You know what? Let's see what happens. Well, sure enough, last night on Cuomo Prime Time on CNN, he was interviewing the president, I think, of this Eco Health Alliance group. They recently just lost some funding. I'm not going to get into the political aspects of that whole thing, but basically, Cuomo just starts going off about Trump. He needs somebody to blame. He's blaming China. Everything is China. Ooh, China's bad. And then he even throws in, just for good measure for everybody else on the in the audience of CNN, China, and Obama. If we can get those both together, that's really bad. And right then, I was just like, you know what? Either he was he was bullshitting us when he said that he didn't want to engage in any more hyperpartisanship politics or rhetoric. Either he was lying to us, or he doesn't have the ability to try to do that within the confines of CNN. Whatever the case is, it was disappointing, because again, my take is we need to get the conversation back towards the middle and listen to both sides and figure it out from there, because a month and a half ago, Cuomo was saying that he didn't think it was healthy, or at least my impression of his comments was that he didn't think the current political and rhetorical environment was healthy, and yet a month and a half later, he's perfectly healthy. He's back in the studio in New York City, and he's right back to where he was before he got sick. So I was a little disappointed, because I think that the only way we're going to move forward as a country is we figure out a way to come together, at least to have a conversation. The first thing out of Cuomo's guest's mouth last night, this Eco Health gentleman, was almost exact opposite of what would come out of a guest's mouth on the Ingraham Angle or Lou Dobbs or one of those shows on the right. So if both sides are accusing the other of lying and not telling the truth, then where do we stand? So it's up to us as sovereign individuals, as people who can make up our own minds, is to read everything we can, and then from all of those positions, then you make your informed decision and point of view. So that is it for this raindrop. Please listen in on my Instagram for upcoming podcasts. I have one coming up this Thursday, the 14th of May at 5 p.m. West Coast time. Until then, thanks very much. This is Brian the Rain Man Lucas. Thanks.